Hello guys, Stephanie Smith back to you today to talk about fear and understanding how fear can control our thinking and take over our brain without us realizing it. And I want to offer you guys three ways that you can fight back against fear taking over your brain. So guys, what you probably are not aware is when we experience fearful situations or situations that make us scared or anxious, what's really happening is our brain is putting labels, putting warning signs on these situations. And most of the time, we don't realize that because we're too busy being involved in the situation or in survival mode of the situation. We don't really realize that our brain is doing this. And so what happens is later on, when we experience the same type of situation again, because our brain has put warning signs or made mental notes of that what happened with that situation in the past, this is often why we feel we have the pit in our stomach, the sweaty palm type syndrome when those situations happen in the future. So our brain has modified our thinking based on prior situations of how we felt when that situation occurred, and it has remembered what has happened, and it's giving us warning signs, right? It's giving us warning signs that we are about to experience fear. And when we experience fear, it typically comes out one of two ways. It's either a low-level fear that we typically experience with anxiety, right? We just get a little bit nervous, we're fidgety. That's the anxiety eating at us, right? And when we have anxiety, what this does to our brain, what this does to our thoughts is it doesn't allow us to think and focus on one thing. Instead, we kind of get in scanning mode. We get cautious, we get timid, and we can't focus, and so we end up jumping from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, and we never really get anything done because that anxiety has now taken control of our thoughts, and that fear that we've experienced from before, the warning labels that are in our brain have now warped or changed our thinking and not allowed us to be productive. The second way that fear that has had labels put on it in our brain is an intense fear. So an intense fear is something where it's typically short-lived, but it has really profound effects on us and how it is affecting us in a situation. So when a really strong, intense fear comes on us, we see our thinking and our energy being affected more. So the first way that it does this is it redirects our energy. So instead of our energy being spread throughout our body and being able to be controlled, when we go through a high level or an intense fear, right, our body and our brain redirects our energy, and it redirects it to our eyesight and our muscles. So then energy that the rest of our body would need, right, is now being depleted because it's now using all the energy in your body to now deal with the situations like your keeping you tense and freezing up. Your eyes become blurry, right? How many of you have been in situations where you feel fainty, right? Or you just freeze up and you can't move, or you start to feel muscle tension and things, examples of that nature, right? That's that our body automatically redirecting our energy to these things. And over time, as you continue to do these more and more and more, and you neglect your body of energy, and you're focusing on these other things, then you start really affecting how your body produces or is productive in any manner. The other way is it's going to redirect our thinking. So typically with sensory inputs, as we take in situations around us, right? And we send those messages to our brain. They have a long route through our brain where we logically think, where we test our morals, where we can creatively think about how we're handling a situation. However, when we experience intense fear, right, our brain redirects that route, and it doesn't go through that long, nice route, hitting all those parts of the brain where we are trying to think logically, be creative, where we are testing our identity and making sure we are responding responsibly. What it does is it sets us into a shortcut, and it goes directly to our brain where our emotions are, right? And then what happens when we have fear? We act out of emotion. And we act out of emotion because the fear has redirected our thinking. It set it on a detour, on a shortcut, right to the emotional part of our brain, and we make our decision from there versus making our decision through the normal sensory route in which our thoughts typically take. And so, as you all are aware, whenever you make decisions upon with emotion, they typically don't have a successful result. So, but there's good news. So today, what I want to talk to you about quickly is 3 ways that you can fight back fight back to your brain on how to redirect your thinking, how to take that thinking back. Okay? Very quickly, let's review them. Number 1, recognize fear with body check-ins. So make body check-ins, make periodic check-ins with your body and ask yourself, how am I feeling? When a situation occurred that you didn't typically like, ask yourself, how did that make you feel? Start to become aware how stressful situations make you feel, and why. Why did it make you feel this way? So, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling like this? Ask yourself those 2 questions. Why? What am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling like this? If you can identify the source of your fear, then you can face it consciously, and you can determine if it's a real threat or if it's just your thinking being redirected. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, reduce fear with buffers. So a lot of you probably struggle with transition, or struggle with being late, or struggle with when you don't start things on time, or if you're rushing, right? Recognize these things about yourself and schedule buffers for yourself. So if you hate to be late to meetings, don't schedule meetings back to back. Don't cause yourself that anxiety, which is going to cause your thinking to be redirected, right? If you know that you always run late, put on your calendar to leave 15 minutes earlier to give yourself more time to not inflict that fear, that anxiety on yourself, which is going to cause your thinking to be redirected. It's going to cause you to act out of character, and you don't have a good result, or you then have to struggle to reel yourself back in. The third thing is face your fear with controlled experiences. So those distinct fears that you know that you have, you can slowly train yourself to handle them better. Okay, so typically when you're in a fearful situation and you know, okay, when this particular thing happens, I typically just freeze up, or my throat gets dry, or I start wringing my hands, or I start pacing the floor. Recognize that those are the fears, those are the results of fear that you have. As you focus on number 1, as you start to understand what you do when you have fear, focus on those, and then recognize when you do them, and start to slowly train your body to do another action. Any action, but don't allow your body to do what it would normally do. This is slowly training your brain to do something else. And the only way we change what we're doing today in any situation is we have to slowly train ourselves to do something else. We have to break the habit that our brain has put in our thinking, right? We have to break that and we have to turn it around to do something else. But as we become aware of how we respond to fear, we're able to change how we respond to fear. So being unaware of fear can lock us into it. But when you know what fear looks like, what fear feels like, and what it does to our brain, we can start taking control of it. So a little stress is good. A lot of stress is bad. But understanding it can be everything. There's no escaping everyday anxiety. It's going to happen. We have to recognize it's going to happen and we have to embrace it. But learning how to harness it is the key. So try these 3 exercises. Try to attack your fear slowly by changing your habits when you become aware of how you respond, and see if fear stops taking control of your life. So guys, I hope you thought this was helpful. Feel free to like, comment, or share with anyone that you know, and we'll be talking to you soon. Go make it a great day. Bye-bye.